Welcome back, YouTubers, to another TNA Impact Wrestling review with us, the British Fist Motherfucker! Ka-ching, motherfucker, right? I'm Mr. Parkin, the greatest man that ever lived. No, that's Austin Aries. It wasn't on tonight's show. You get me instead. This guy sitting next to me here is the almost greatest man that ever lived, but is the greatest man that ever lived compared to me.
What's up?
The double what's up. He's definitely the greatest man that ever lived. Anyway, guys, you know the usual drill. TNA Impact Wrestling, you can subscribe to us. There's a little thing up here now that allows you to subscribe to us and go to our channel. Like the video and comment your thoughts on the show down in the comments section below, because that's still below. That hasn't changed, has it?
It hasn't. And make sure you contact us in the links in the description box below.
Yeah, and that sure as hell hasn't changed. So this was Open Fight Night live from Jonesboro, I believe. We opened up the show with Jeff Hardy talking about how he's the new #1 contender. We have Bully Ray and the Aces and Eights interrupting him. And you notice how Bully Ray and Anderson were in troll mode talking about Jeff's 75 chance. It was like Anderson was in real troll mode tonight, wasn't he?
Out of all the people in the Ace and Eight, the two best mic talkers there talking at each other. This was what I call close to gold. But I think Bully Ray should have said more against Anderson. But yes, they were definitely going up against the #1 contender at the time, Jeff Hardy. And I just thought this was good work from Anderson, who I want to see more of, and Bully Ray being the champion once again.
Yeah, a solid opener. I think with Bully Ray being the lead man on the mic and the lead guy in the faction, I can at least care about them a little bit. It's just when Bully Ray isn't involved where I kind of stop caring about the group a little bit. But we get the Aces and Eights beating down Jeff Hardy as per the request of Bully Ray, and all the baby faces come down to the ring to save the day, and that leads us to our main event of the evening, which Jeff Hardy said he would be calling out Mr. Anderson. So we got our main event sorted.
The faces were a bit delayed because Jeff Hardy did get a good battering before they came down. I enjoyed, but it did set up the main event. Jeff Hardy chose Anderson over Bully. Okay, but again, I like Anderson performing, so I was looking forward to this.
Saving that Bully Ray versus Jeff Hardy match for the Corpus Christi show, which is going to be in 2 weeks' time, which they were hyping the fuck out of on this show. We had Los Stereotypicos calling out Bad Influence for screwing them out of their title shot last week, and we also had them saying that Hogan has added a special stipulation that it was a #1 contendership match. I cannot be surprised that Los Stereotypicos went over it because Corpus Christi is in the Mexico area, so I kind of expected them to get a win. Plus, I feel they're probably saving Bad Influence versus Wet Dream Team for Slammiversary, which is going to be in June, so they've got a while to build that one up, I feel.
My 2 points I want to make about this is that, yes, they are hyping up the 2-week show, but I was hoping more of next week, so we get like, oh, I can't wait to see this next week. But obviously, they've been up to their biggest show, and I was mentioning this to you during the show. They need more tag teams. Because yes, I'm glad they picked them. There's a reason for it. We want to see it. More Bad Influence, the better. But to be honest, we need more tag teams, more competitors, more matches. So even though I'm glad this is happening, I wish there was more going on.
Yeah, I mean, even if Bad Influence and Rude and Aries are really, really entertaining, it's still going to get a little bit stale after a couple of months. So we do desperately need some new tag teams in there. Gunner and Kid Cash, I suppose Kid Cash isn't there anymore. The Aces and Eights, maybe put them in give them a tag team. You know, I don't know, I'm just saying. But pretty solid matches between these two. I especially like the spots where Hernandez had them both on his shoulder and bumped them down when they both jumped from the ring apron to the ring. Those two spots really got a quite sort of semi-interested crowd into a very interested crowd. 2 points in the match.
Hernandez is a guy that you could picture eventually branching off in his own in a stronger way, but in this, he was definitely the powerhouse, the one who would fight back, the one who would actually save the match, while Chavo just does the spot to get the finish. But the way they did this, it was a pretty okay match, but then again, it was all building up more for the Mexico
match, yes. Exactly, the Corpus Christi show. In the next segment, we've got a storyline again, which they've been building up for quite some time. We had the debut, the in-ring debut we were supposed to get, of Taryn Terrell, where she called out Gail Kim, and Taryn Terrell was pretty freaking hot in that ring gear, wasn't she?
She was indeed, yeah.
Is that why you're rubbing your boob region, NJ?
Yes,
we basically, in this segment, how can I concentrate on a segment when you're doing that, NJ? God, it's so damn bloody distracting, like Taryn Terrell. We have Gail Kim calling out Terror to beat down Terror and Terrell, allowing Velvet Sky to come out to save the day. This is probably going to set up a tag match down the line. Number one, it's nice to see a new knockout in there. And number two, I thought this was a generally pretty solid segment. They're kind of halting off on Terror and Terrell's debut, which I think is the best way to go, really.
The real two things that stood up from this was Terrell is a typical, good-looking, you're blonde, you're Barbie doll, there you go, you got your shot. The second thing is, it weren't really this segment that did it for me. It was a backstage segment. They were just talking away, and all of a sudden she goes,
there they are, we're going to kick their asses. So yeah, I mean, that added a little bit to it. So that was good. I like the use of that backstage brawl segment. We've got a gut check next week. Adam Pearce versus Magno, or as you said, Rey Mysterio versus Christopher Daniels. That's going to be a gut check match next week. Should be an awesome match between those two veterans, even though Adam Pearce is a veteran and former ROH booker. We also got the news that Jeff Hardy was going to pick his stipulation for his title match, which would feature in the main event segment of the night. Also, did anyone else find it funny how Spike TV had a WrestleMania advert and The Rock had appeared more on TNA adverts than he's appeared on WWE TV for the last month?
Spike, or whatever this was based on going, was definitely advertising The Rock, getting him out there, advertising WrestleMania. Forget about Slammiversary and their little show they've got coming up, which gets announced by someone backstage. I can't remember which one. But yeah, just concentrate on WrestleMania.
Indeed. We had an interesting segment between Sting and Hogan tonight. This was our main event. Sting comes out saying that he hasn't been able to speak to Hogan for 2 weeks, and he calls Hogan out to the ring. This was a real dynamite segment, in my opinion, between two veterans who obviously know how to tell a story in the ring. They know how to tell a story on the mic, and they have great chemistry between the two. You have Hogan blaming Sting for everything that's happened with Bully Ray. Sting wants him to own up for his own decision, and Hogan tells Sting to get out of his ring, brother! This was some pretty intense, emotional, and kind of felt real.
Hogan was obviously saying that he felt bad about Bully Ray. He had a bad choice from the start. He gave him the chance of his daughter and blah, blah, blah. Sting weren't having any of his bull. And I was hoping this is not going to be a match. Just get straight past this. But the mic work and the feud or the fallout between the two definitely built up more during this segment.
Yeah, this was a needed segment to continue on this sort of little mini storyline they're doing between Hogan and Sting. I doubt it will lead to a match, but it was a necessary segment there. They needed to hash all this kind of stuff out, as Full Killer pointed out on Twitter. So after that, what I thought was a great segment, we had James Storm come out to the ring to call out AJ Styles after what happened 2 weeks ago where he beat him down. And AJ Styles is in the crowd. It kind of feels like 1997 Sting all over again, doesn't it? Not that that's a bad thing. It's nice and compelling for the AJ Styles character right now. Are you just going to hang around in the rafters, NJ, while I talk about this segment? Fair enough. And then before we really get anywhere with the segment, Aces and Eights come out to beat down James Storm, and AJ just kind of walks off as if to say, I don't give a fuck about you, I'm just caring about myself.
There was this article, I read this before, maybe it's not meaning anything, but Bully Ray Smith have hinted that there's going to be more members. AJ being there, and also the Aces and Eights getting involved in a segment they're not really a part of. Could this be another direction for AJ eventually, or was that more just to have more Aces and Eights involved on TNA?
It seemed to me that it was there to forward on a match which would happen, but I really think as the AJ Styles character needs to be a loner, kind of like Sting was in 1997 in WCW. I don't think it should have anything to do with the Aces and Eights, but I'm liking this Sting character right now. It's pretty good. We have the Aces and Eights beat down. Out comes Angle and Eric Young to save the day. That leads to a 6-man tag between Angle, Storm, Eric Young versus Garrett Bischoff, Wes Briscoe, and Doc, where Wes Briscoe got the roll-up pin on Angle.
Well, this goes down the way that I enjoy the Aces and Eights. They're beat-downs before the matches. The beat-downs are what made the Aces and Eights come alive at the beginning. The match, yes, it was kind of typical, back and forth between the two. The roll-up at the end, I think that was just a cheapish way. Yes, they needed D'Lo to be there, but it gave the Aces and Eights their first win.
Yeah, I mean, they had some wins, which is a good thing, I guess. I guess the thing is here with me, if the group isn't out there with Bully Ray on the mic, I guess I'm still finding it very hard to care about this faction, especially the combination of Garrett Bischoff, Wes Briscoe, and Doc. I will say that. So I didn't have too much interest in this segment, but we'll move on. TNA are going to be doing their first one-night-only pay-per-view, the Extravaganza. This is going to be next Friday. near to WrestleMania. Whether or not we'll watch and review it, I don't know. It depends how we feel about it and how we, want to go about watching it, etc. How much it's for, how much we have to pay for it, I guess.
I personally, the way they did this, the fact that the X Division keeps going uphill and downhill very rapidly, I think anything that spots like the X Division would get my interest just to see it have its moment in the sun. But unless it leads somewhere afterwards, it may affect my feeling on that pay-per-view. Or little segment.
They didn't really do. I mean, they haven't really hyped up to this. Really, they mentioned it on tonight's show. They also mentioned that Sonjay Dutt, who lost the triple threat match last week, would have to go into another number one contendership type match against Mason Andrews and Petey Williams. I must admit, after a lot of talk I've heard about Petey Williams and his finishing with the Canadian Destroyer, I'm very much looking forward to that match next week. That should be. Hopefully a pretty good match. It'd be good if they got maybe a promo segment or some backstage to talk maybe. I don't know.
I really think the X Division, either next week, because obviously this week's gone, they should really big up the X Division once again. Instead of giving it this little moment here and there, I think they need to make it their concentration because TNA was famous for the X Division part of their show.
Indeed, and I guess as part of this extravaganza, pay-per-view, they're going to be bringing back maybe some old X Division stars like, Petey Williams, etc. down the line. Then we get to our main event. Before we get there, though, it was funny how Anderson got himself pretty fired up for the main event, wasn't it? With the beer and the backstage segment that he was in with Bully Ray and Devon.
I did enjoy this because they're all just chatting about how they want things to work, how they want to take out Jeff Hardy. Then all of a sudden, Anderson makes the spotlight on him and how he feels, what he's going to do, what's going to happen in this match. Then Buddy Ray and Dion just go, I like him.
Yeah,
I like this.
So do we. It's just a shame you didn't really transfer that to the match, though. Like, you'd think if he was fired up, he'd go in all guns blazing, but you never really did. The match itself was typically solid, yet really kind of forgettable match, really, as we all really care about the post-match, I guess.
At the beginning of the review, I did say I look forward to Anderson matches. I do like him as a performer. He's been good against AJ. He's been good against Angle and other people in the past. So when I saw Anderson in the main event against Jeff Hardy, I was expecting good stuff. Maybe it would have been good if he weren't a part of the Ace and Eights when it expected weapon usage, cheats to win. Maybe it's the Ace and Eights that held Anderson's performance back. But it was a bit of a letdown for me too.
Not to mention the quite long ad break that we had during this as well. But anyway, we'll move on to the post-match. That's really what's important here. You have Hardy hitting Anderson with the hammer to kind of get his mini revenge, I guess, to get disqualified. Then you have Hardy. They all kind of tease that stipulation match, which you thought they would probably do here. You have Hardy hitting Anderson with a chair. He's about to put Anderson through a table using a ladder until Bully Ray comes out to get Anderson out the ring. Jeff Hardy announces a Full Metal Mayhem, which is TNA's version of a TLC match.
I should have freaking got it from those clues.
Yeah, I know. They put so many clues out there, and we had to wait until he announced it to know which match it was, didn't we?
We did indeed, and this is the good thing, because you do represent, even though when Jeff Hardy wants a match, you do expect it to be a ladder match or a TLC, so we knew it was eventually going to come to that. But with this match happening, with Bully Ray going back to the old style matches he used to be in, I'm looking forward to this. I just like the way they teased it. I want to see what they do next week, but good way to finish.
And let's face it, these two have a lot of history in TLC matches over the years, so it should be good. I'm looking forward to this one. Jeff Hardy versus Bully Ray in a TLC match. Long time since we've seen a Full Metal Mayhem match on TNA, so that should be very interesting. As for the overall show, though, NJ, what were your thoughts on this one? It was never going to be as good as last week, was it? That was an exceptional show. It was always going to be a kind of not as good, really.
With the storytelling last week of the Ace and Eights, which, even though we really worked out, the added information was good. This week, I'm going to give it a compliment. It gave us direction.
Yes.
Even though it was for the 2 week shows of next week, it's still direction which shows should give you. For that, I give it thumbs up. The involvement of the Ace and Eights, the storyline of AJ, the storyline of Hogan, the Diva knockouts, I think they've done a pretty good job setting up the next 2 weeks.
Indeed, and I will echo your sentiment there. They set up next week's show with the gut check match and the X Division match. They've also set up the Corpus Christi show as a big kind of show with a big World Heavyweight Championship match between Hardy and Bully Ray, not to mention the tag title match, Los Stereotypicos versus Rude and Aries, who weren't on the show. So there was a lot of direction in tonight's show. And currently, I'm quite liking where TNA are going with their storylines. The general direction of TNA, I'm feeling, is pretty good. And also, I think it's worth to mention here that last week we didn't really have any Aces and Eights segments, like in-ring segments. We had a couple this week, which kind of let the show down a little bit for me, but it's still a solid show. And like you said, it gave plenty of direction.
And then obviously the next step would be this week, worthless mortals. We can forget about the Ace and Eights, as we all know by now. They're absolutely worthless. This week, I'm going to talk about the two pathetic fucking worthless mortals being Hogan and Sting. They come into the ring, waste our bloody time, try and make us give a damn about them when we all know their time has come and gone. Hogan and Sting, you go on and on and on, trying to make it sound like there's something going on between you two. Well, shut the fuck up and leave the ring, because no one really cares. Let's go on something bigger and better, which is Fall Killer's video this week. Because believe me, worthless mortals, you're going to hear what I have to say to both him and 4 Dimension Fall Killer.